Hey guys, Britta Albert here. If this is your first time here, I'm a transformational life coach, and my goal for this channel is to help you overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living your best and most authentic life. Today, I have my husband Stan. He's joining in, and we are actually going to talk about relationships. Specifically, we are going to share with you guys something that actually happened last night and what we've learned from it. So Stan, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can definitely start it off. First of all, how you guys doing out there? And if you want to see more of Stan, to go ahead and check out the Albert Family channel. I had to get that plug in there first. And you can actually come along and join some fun with me. So today's video, the way I want to break it down is me, her. I can't say it was it an argument? Would you consider that an argument?
Yes.
Okay, so we were having an argument. So in which couples do have disagreement. Mm-hmm. And the thing that we were arguing over, I quickly realized, and I'm going to take it as my fault because I dropped a major ball. Time and time again, we talk about communication. And if you come to our channel, the Albert Family channel, one of the key topics we talk about with a healthy relationship is communication. Mm-hmm. So what happened was it came to a point in time where we had a conversation many months ago. And we was actually talking about YouTube. And I am a type of person, I'm very passionate about YouTube. And I tend to talk a really lot about YouTube. And I think I was wearing her down with so much communication about YouTube because my secondary job is way easier than her. So she has to put more training thought in her job than I do mine because I've done it so long that it just instantaneously I can just do it. And I felt like I could not talk to her about YouTube because I felt like she told me that, hey, it's better if you only talk to me about YouTube every now and then. And that wasn't the way it was phrased. To me that I thought, but I'm kind of going with it like that. And so I kind of shut down. And so I wouldn't talk to her about any YouTube because I thought that it was an inconvenience for her. And what that secretly was doing, it was definitely putting a wedge between us because I had that ball down inside of me and I did not communicate that to her. And so when we got out there to shoot our video for the Albert Family channel, just like it always does, guys, when you hold stuff in, sooner or later, it blows up. And that when it literally blew up. Mm-hmm. And then all the frustrations from me came out on her, and then all her frustrating came out for me. And I realized as we were talking, it may not seem like that in the moment, but I realized as I was talking to her, as we're now communicating, if I just would have took the time out and say, hey, I need to talk to you about something. Like, I should have took the time out and say, am I really aggravating you about talking about YouTube so much? How do you feel about me talking about YouTube so much? And then I would have got her thought process for the communication piece. And then I would have known how she felt. And it really wasn't the way that I thought she felt. Because I thought that I couldn't talk about YouTube at all. That wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. I really could talk about YouTube, but I didn't know that because I assumed that was what was placed in front of me. And so that's how it got heated. But if I would have just communicated to her of my feelings and what was going on, then you know what? That whole situation could have been avoided because then we would have been on the same page and that wouldn't have happened. And now I keep telling myself over and over again, I tell people and viewers how important it is to communicate with your spouse. And here I am not even listening to my own words or my own message. And it ended up getting me in a predicament that I didn't have to go through.
So what would you say was kind of the turning point of yesterday? Because we were kind of going back and forth, and I felt like it really wasn't going anywhere for a little while. Because there was your truth, and then there was my truth, and there really wasn't much give on either side as far as our perspectives on things. What for you was the moment that kind of helped your walls come down?
I think for me, I just realized that I was being stubborn. Because at the point in time, you know, when you hold something in for a certain amount of period of time, you start to get mad and it starts to sink. And if you don't relieve that pressure, it can build up until it just blows up. And I was at that point. And then I realized how mad I was and how I felt. And then the key thing that really opened my eyes is when she said, hey, I'm not trying to be your enemy. And then you have to look at it with open eyes, because sometimes, and I don't know if you guys experience it, especially, let me know in the comments if you do, especially if you're a couple. Sometimes you forget when you're in the heat of the moment or the heat of the argument that is your wife, or that is your husband, or that is your significant other. And at the end of the day, you love her or him or whatever. And then I realized that I was too overly mad over something that could have just been talked about if I would have made the effort to talk about it earlier. Like if I would, in that moment when I thought she said what she said, if I would have just came out and addressed it so many weeks ago or months ago, I can't remember. It's been so long, I can't even remember when the conversation was actually had. We could have did that in the moment. And all the stuff that I had inside that I was carrying with me, I didn't have to do. It could have been settled. So I think the right moment in time for me when I came to the realization was when you said that. And then I realized, I started thinking, because sometimes in the heat of the moment, you don't think. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, you react. Yeah. And so I had the opportunity to start thinking, and then I realized, man, if I would have just been communicating to her, then she would have known how I felt. Then she would have been able to respond, and it wouldn't have ambush her or slap her or whatever the word I'm trying to say. Sucker punch her in the gut. And she could have been prepared, and we could have had the conversation, and we could have had like a normal conversation, and it didn't have to be like it was. Yeah. And one quick thing before you say something. We filmed the video, and she had looked so hot. I'm breaking it. I know, but I just gotta say, she had looked so good, and I just wanted to hold her. Because she's my wife. I love her, and it's hard to be in that moment, because at the end of the day, I still love her. Even after all that, I'm still attracted to her, and I still love her. Even when I'm in the heat of the moment, she's still mine. Sorry, I just had to say that. I'm sorry. Guys, on the Britta Average channel, I'm sorry if I just messed that whole thing up. But this is me. And if you come to the Average Family channel, you can actually see all of this. Yes. But yeah. Go ahead, my bad.
No, conclude.
Well, sometimes I ramble, so I talk over and over. But basically, I'm going to just cut it short. Basically, like I say, once again, communication was the key. And something that I preach on the Albert Family channel over and over and over again, I did not follow it. And it came back and bit me in the butt.
Yeah. And I think the biggest lesson for this, because what it sounds like the turning point for you was also the turning point for me. Mm-hmm. Because in that moment when I said that, what I actually said is, I'm not your enemy. I want to be your partner. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I dropped my walls, because what I was trying to do so much was explain my part, because this is the dangerous thing that can happen when you guys don't communicate. And I'm talking about you guys, but I'm talking about us, because this is our story. Mm-hmm. And we can only share our experiences with you. That this conversation where he felt that I said that I didn't want him to talk about YouTube with me. It could be anything, but I would never in my I would never intentionally tell my husband that he can't talk about something with me, because if he can't talk about something, then we're not free. If there's anything we can't talk about, we're not free. You should be able to talk about everything with your significant other, because you live with them. They're part of your sanctuary, your safety. You're doing life with them. So I would never want him to feel like there's something he couldn't talk to me about. So this conversation that planted this seed in him that started a division between us, I don't even know what conversation he's talking about. And that's not necessarily, I'm not going to say it's not applicable to this, but it just kind of revealed to me how dangerous it can be. That you can create wounds in people not even knowing it. And it's kind of like, what do? Do you just walk around always asking people, like, did I hurt you today? Did I offend you? You can't really do that either. But being very aware when there is a distance happening, I felt it. And I could have called this out as well. Say, hey, what's going on between us? But I justified it in my own mind that, okay, well, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so you're immersing yourself in this. We're exhausted. It's the holidays. There's all this stuff going on. I know I'm coming home exhausted from work, and then we still have all of the advent calendar stuff that we do with our kids during the holiday season. And you know, I just kind of let it, I observed it, but I also didn't call it out and try to address it, and how dangerous that could have been. We had a disagreement. I call it a fight or an argument because we don't fight or argue. So for us, it was. But it can be so dangerous for something to sit and fester, especially something so easily avoidable. This was something that really wasn't a big deal, but it turned into a big deal, even slowly over time. Then those wounds, they're so deep and they've taken such a root that even with us talking, there's still healing that needs to happen. Because even though he hears me and he believes me that, yes, he can talk to me about this, he's played this story in his mind so many times over these last couple of months that he can't talk to me, that he has to relearn that he can, and he has to reteach himself how to trust me. And it's not something that you're able to do overnight. Knowing that there are many signs that this could have been avoided, signs that I could have seen, or signs that I did see that I could have done something about and I didn't. Or, you know, the fact that you could have communicated and clarified, is this what you're telling me? And if so, why? And then also understanding that, again, I don't remember this conversation, so I don't know what I said. I'm not above having a bad day. I might have been having a bad day. I have no idea what I said in this conversation, so I really can't even justify whatever it is that I said whenever I said it. I think we learned that at the end of the day, we both chose that we want to do life together. We both decided, hey, they're not my enemy. They're my partner. And when we do things together, we're stronger, we're better, we're happier, we're whole. And it's not to say that my fulfillment or my wholeness comes from him. And it's not to say that I feel something in him that's a void. Together, we are two people who are independently can be happy. We love ourselves. We can fulfill ourselves emotionally, spiritually. But when you have two healthy people together, it's just that much stronger. And I wanted to say that because since this is talking about our relationship, I've seen a lot of people have kind of a misconception of relationships, and especially in our Western culture, there's a lot of romanticizing a marriage or relationship filling something in you that you lack. Again, number one, remember, you lack nothing. But number two, if you are always trying to fill something inside of you that you think you lack from other people, you will always be disappointed. And that's how you'll find yourself in this perpetual pattern of dating the same person, having the same outcomes. And you'll never be happy because the happiness is not coming from you. You're trying to get it from somebody else. So I just wanted to make that distinction.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think, guys, is now that you think about it. So when you're in the heat of the moment, it's kind of hard to stop yourself and look at the bigger picture. And then after it's over, you kind of go back and rewind back and say, what was said and what could I do better, or what could I have done in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the most important thing is to think about your loved one and put yourself in their shoes. Because like if I really would have put myself in her shoes, it ironically, it sounds funny because, if you think about it, would she really say, hey, I don't want you to talk about YouTube? Like, knowing how passionate I am about YouTube and how much fun I have, would your loved one really want to put a stop to something that you love talking about? As long as it's, not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
And like I said, in a relationship, your foundation should be trust, love, and communication.
Yeah.
And I broke one of the golden rules in a relationship. And it may seem minor because you guys out there, you might think to yourself, hey, I can have love and I can have trust, but I don't really need the communication because we're on that level. Or I can have communication, I can have trust, but I don't really need the love.
Or they know me, so they should know I think this way.
Yeah, but that's actually not true. You definitely need the communication piece because that's how you guys stay on the same page with each other. That's how big blow up arguments can be stopped before they even get there. Because if you can be honest with yourself and don't be afraid to ask the questions that you think that you shouldn't ask, because that's a good way to get yourself in these type of situations.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're really in a healthy relationship and both of you want to be strong mentally, you want to heal yourself from things in your past, and you're working together and you have the same goal, nothing should be off limits and nothing should not be safe.
Yeah, it should be one team, one dream. And like, we've been together for a while now. And, like I said, she does the life coaching. Our channel together is tips and advice about relationships in there. And that's to show you that nobody's perfect. Mm-hmm. I preach this stuff every single day when I'm talking with people, how to get a better relationship. And I broke one of the golden rules. But see, the thing about it is, also, you got to remember, don't beat yourself up. Mm-hmm. Just remember what happened, live in that moment, and try not to make the same mistakes twice.
Yeah.
So if this come dead center around next time,
full circle
around next time, then I know I was like, hey, I need to talk this through. Mm-hmm. So, hey, would you come with me? Would you sit down? Let's have a conversation. And that way we can actually talk about it now instead of 4 and 5 months from now.
Yeah.
We're in a heated argument where it didn't really have to happen.
Yeah.
So I keep saying communication is the key, but communication is really the key.
And self-actualization, self-awareness. We wouldn't be having this conversation if neither one of us, or even just if one of us, but the other one was not willing to look at themselves and say, where's my part in this? Mm-hmm. And to be self-aware of the mirror that the other person is holding for them. What am I seeing? What am I being triggered about this situation? How am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Just like Stan said, to be self-aware and to stop and think. And in the moment, it's very difficult. So if you're not able to do it in the moment, as you can see, we're human. And for us, it's hard sometimes in the moment. But the more that we're able to be self-aware, the more we can catch it, even if that means that what we did last night is we took a break from each other for like 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And we just were separated from each other. He was outside, I was inside. Just breathe, calm down. Then we came back together and then we talked about it. There's nothing wrong with needing some distance so that you can collect yourself, collect your thoughts, separate yourself from that emotion of being in the moment, because once you're out of the moment, then you can self-actualize, then you can be self-aware and think about what is really the truth of the situation. Does this make sense? Why am I thinking this way? Why am I feeling this way? Because with both of us doing that, number one, we're able to stop it in its tracks. We're able to talk about it. We're able to deal with it. We're able to fix it. Number two is we're going to get better next time. This is how you learn. This is how you prevent this again in the future. This is how you become better.
Yeah, and one last thing for me is we're still learning and growing as a couple. Even though we dated for a while and been married for a while, we're still learning and growing. And nobody's perfect. But the one thing, or one of the things I definitely want to tell you guys, especially if you have kids, these life lessons that you are learning today with you and your spouse, I know with me to her, these are going to be great teaching advice, especially if you have kids, because your kids will learn from you.
Yes.
And your kids will learn how mommy and daddy should have a conversation and not a fight or argument.
Yeah.
So, when you think things are in the heat of the moment, and before you strike out and say something that you shouldn't say, take a deep breath, walk away, put yourself in her shoe. Think about the situation. Think about how the situation could have been avoided. And if we're in the eye of the storm, how can we heal from it? How can we move forward?
You brought up another good point too. When you said stop, take a breath, walk away. Can you imagine what would have happened if I wouldn't have allowed you to walk away? Or if you wouldn't have allowed me to walk away, to want to force the conversation in the moment, in the heat of the moment, when we're not calm? That would have been a disaster. We would have not been able to be calm and have a conversation about it.
I agree.
Well, guys, so you good before I wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm good. That was the last thing I wanted to say.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Again, this is my husband, Stan. If you want to see more of him, please join us at the Albert Family channel. I'll put the link below. That's my second channel. And again, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing. Also, hit that bell notification. And if there's anyone in your life that you think could benefit from seeing this video, please share it with them, because that's how we continue to grow this family and grow this community. Thank you guys so much for being with me this evening. I will see you next time.